Welcome to another fly tying video. Today we're going to be tying a lightning bug nymph. I'm going to start out with a number 10 heavy wire 1x long nymph hook, 3.8 tungsten bead in gold, 16-aught Vivis brown thread. Just going to start your thread here behind the bead. Cover your tag end, snip that off. Wrap back to about mid-gap of the hook. After you get your hook centered up in the vise here. Then we're going to take some pheasant tail fibers. It's going to be our tail material. Get everything centered up. You want them about as long as the hook gap, maybe a hair longer. Usually take one wrap around. It makes them stand up a little bit better. And cinch them down. And wrap forward. Cut the excess off there behind the bead. Wrap everything down nice and tight. And you have your tail. Then we're just going to add some small copper wire. About a 2-inch piece will do. Tie that in behind the eye of the hook. Wrap all the way back to the beginning of your tail. Now that we have that situated, we can add our Vivis large pearl tinsel. It's actually going to be the body of our fly. Good 2.5-inch piece will do. Tie that in close to the beginning of your tail. Then we're going to make overlapping wraps forward to form the body of the fly. This will give us that shiny lightning bug-like effect. I use a bobbin holder here just to hold the thread out of the way to make it easier to wrap. We're just going to wrap this up about 3/4 of the way up the hook shank. Grab our thread off the bobbin holder and just tie everything down nice and tight. Now we're just going to take that small copper wire that we tied in earlier and counter wrap about 4 wraps around the body of the fly. Make sure you keep your spacing good. Give it a little bit of a segmented look. I'm just going to tighten that down, 2 or 3 wraps in the back, a few more in the front, and helicopter that wire off. Next step, we're going to take another small piece of Vivis pearl tinsel. This is going to be our overlay for our thorax. Tie that in nice and even, straight above the hook point. Maybe a third of the way back into your body. And that's set. Next, we're going to grab some peacock curl. For size 10, I like to grab about 3 strands. Usually cut the end of them off because there's not much material there to be used. We're just going to tie those in. Again, I'm just using my bobbin holder here to hold my thread back out of the way to make it easier to wrap this thorax in. Nice tight wraps, overlapping a little bit all the way to the bead. Build up a nice little thorax. We're going to take our thread off the bobbin holder and just make some nice securing wraps here right behind the bead. Nice and neat. Making sure not to overlap any of your peacock curl except for right there at the front of the fly. Snip that off. Now we're going to be ready to add some legs to this thing. Going to use some grizzly hen saddles in yellow. Just going to take these and cut V's for the legs. Cut the tip of the feather off. And then just use the remaining section to establish the legs for the fly. Just pick out a nice medium-sized feather for this application. Once you have that V cut, I'm just going to lay that on top of the thorax of the fly. And secure it right behind the bead. Snip that little tag end of the feather off. We're going to pull our tinsel forward and split that V right down the middle so we have the same amount of legs on each side of the fly. Make sure everything's lined up nice and straight. Just going to take a couple thread wraps right behind the bead. Usually make a couple wraps in front just to flatten it down. Once you cut it, it'll lay nice and flat. So when you add your resin, you have nothing sticking up. just going to do a nice little whip finish here, 6-7 turns. Everything looks pretty good and even there. We're going to grab our Solarez bone dry resin. Make a nice little dot right on top of the tinsel that we added in earlier. Make sure you get some covering your thread wraps also. It helps secure it and make the fly a lot more durable. We're just going to UV, seal everything up, and repeat this step one time just to give it a little more durability. Hit it with the UV light one more time. And that's pretty much going to finish up this fly. Never fished this pattern, just researched it, and looks like a fishy fly. Probably use it when the water's a little high and muddy like it is now. It looks pretty visible. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.